Welcome to the Date Forever podcast. Keep your relationship fueled up with strategies discovered by couples and experts. Because at Fuel Collective, we believe better relationships will equal a better world. You are about to discover specific insights and tools that cost little or nothing to implement to help you date forever. And now, here are your hosts, a couple who always have a half-packed suitcase and a date night in the calendar, Sammi and Nathan Jaeger.
Welcome to the Date Forever podcast. Today we're speaking with the incredible Keith Abraham about everything goal setting. The topics we're going to touch on today is the 3 things to connect with when setting goals, overcoming fear to set and achieve your goals, and then setting those big lifetime goals as an individual and also as a couple. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the Date Forever podcast, everyone. Our guest today is a multi-award winning presenter. He is a multi-award winning speaker, and last year he was named Educator of the Year. He is also a best-selling author of 5 books published in 12 languages. In his 24-year speaking career, he has presented to more than 1.6 million people across 33 countries. He's a global authority on goal achievement, and I would like to welcome Keith Abraham to the Date Forever podcast.
Well, thanks very much, Sammi. Thanks, Nathan. Great to be part of this excellent podcast. And I just love what you're doing and helping couples to, join their goals together and go on a pathway together, which is really important.
Absolutely. So, Keith, in full transparency, you and I have actually met in person a little bit towards the end of last year. But
Yes.
This is the first time you and Nathan are meeting, and obviously it might be the first time that some of our listeners are meeting you as well.
Yeah.
Can you just give us a bit of who you are and what you do and what you're passionate about?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. So for the last 24 years, I've been a professional presenter, spoken to 1.6 million people in 33 different countries. And on that journey, I've been fortunate enough to have written 5 best-selling books published in 12 different languages. I'm big in Russia. Oh, there's one of them.
And here,
Two of which we have
there's
here.
another one. Yeah. Big in Russia. I sold 25,000 books in a day in Russia.
Wow.
And but I think they're using them for firewood, so I'm not quite sure. So it's been a great journey. I'm predominantly speaking at about 100 conferences a year for large corporates and small to medium-sized enterprise business owners. So, and as I said, it takes me all over the world, and I'm just really fortunate that I've had this wonderful experience. And just to put things into perspective, so for 24 years, my wife and I, we've been married for 27 years, and
yeah, it is.
Which is great. Two kids, 2 daughters who are just great girls, and but we've worked together side by side as business partners as well as life partners for the last 27 years. 28 years we've known each other, 27 years we've been married, 24 years in business together. So
Ultimate teamwork.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dynamic team.
So just, so what is your key focus areas of your speaking? You said you've spoken all over the world. So what are those areas?
Yeah, a couple of topics there, predominantly around people's goals. So I've been a student of the goal setting process for high achievers and helping people determine what's important, what matters, and what makes a difference to them. So that's where I've spent half of my time. The other half of my time has been around business growth. So helping people grow business, whether that's through sales, service, in essence, leadership. And so the thing I concentrate a lot on now, Nathan, is what's next. What's next for you as an individual? What's next for you as a business leader? What's next in your marketplace? And that's a really important message to even especially now when everything that's going on, we need to know, what do I do now? What do I do next? So that's what I work on. Probably half of that work has really been with what I call high performance leaders. And these are people who are a really unique bunch of people. I get the chance to work with people who are highly successful, but they become stuck, stale and stagnant. So they're successful, but they've lost their energy, their enthusiasm, their empowerment, their engagement, their edge. for it. In other words, they've lost their passion for it. Still successful at it, don't get me wrong, but they just need to rekindle,
That
what they're passionate about.
Leads into one of the quotes that we've heard you say a couple of times, and I think is in one of these books. When the why becomes clear, the how becomes easy.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, look, one of all the research that we've done, especially over about the last 17 years, has been really centered around, well, why do some people achieve and other people don't? And it's not education, it's not all they're more motivated or anything like that. Here's what I can tell you. You have to have three components. You have to be emotionally connected, mentally connected, and physically connected to your goal. Because when you are, you become committed and you become compelled to do the uncomfortable and the inconvenient. And so I coined the phrase, when the why becomes clear, the how becomes easy. See, most people know what and how, but they don't know why. So we spend a lot of time on helping people. And look, and there's lots of people around the ridges that are talking about finding your why, but we got a formula and a methodology. Lots of people say, oh, you got to go and find your why. Oh, how do you do that? Crickets.
Especially if you've moved through life for 20, 30 odd years not knowing it.
Yeah, it's not as easy
that's
as it
right.
sounds.
Yeah, and people put too much pressure on themselves. So we've got a few different strategies on how people can find that. Because once you know what's important, what matters, what makes a difference to you, then all of a sudden you know what to do after that, and you know how to do it. So we've got a few formulas and blueprints on how to move people through the emotional connection, mental connection, physical connection. What are we really talking about? Why, what, how, feel, think, do, heart, head, hands.
Amazing. So one of the things that I was lucky enough to have you walk me through when I saw you speak last year was this concept of the 100 goals.
Yes.
Nathan and I have now done this exercise together.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about what that process does for people?
Yeah, well, it's the top or the thin edge of the wedge for understanding your why. You see, you and I as adults, we get frustrated. We don't feel like we're making progress. We need to be moving towards something and away from something else. So when we understand what it is that we're moving towards, and we start with the macro and then come down to micro. And so this helps people to get some clarity about what they really want to do in their life. So when you start to think of it, you go, okay, let's start with 100 things you want to do in your lifetime. Now, most people go, oh, I could never write down 100. Oh, yes, you can. Oh, yes, you can. Because I've got a formula. I've got a process. If I can ask you 25 questions and you can come up with 4 answers, then I can get anybody to 100. And here's the power of this. So we did a research project probably now going back probably about 15 years ago, where we said to people, write down your list of 100, send it to us. We're going to hold on to it for 3 years and we're going to send it back to you. And all we want you to do is just tell us how many you have been able to tick off the list.
Yeah.
And so what I can tell you is that now here's what really interesting. When we sent the list back to people went, oh, I forgot all about it.
Yeah.
Sitting in the subconscious.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
on the other side of it, there's people saying, oh yeah, we look at this every year. Oh, we look at this every quarter. We're looking at this regularly.
We're reviewing.
So it was this spectrum. But here's what I can tell you. On average, 42 of those goals had been achieved.
That's amazing.
That's great. In 3 years.
In 3 years.
Not a lifetime, 3
No.
years.
Leave it with me for 5 years and it goes up to 71. And
That's
so
so cool.
Yeah.
it's really great. And we're talking little goals, we're talking big goals, we're talking finding relationships, we're talking about buying houses, we're talking about, moving countries. And then we're talking little things. Oh, I want to learn how to swim, or I want to, have, reconnect with, my original friendship group, whatever it might be. Really, really, really funky things. Now, let me tell you, if you achieve, 42 things in 3 years, do you think your life might change? Do you think, as you go and achieve this goal over here, a door opens up over here that was never there before? And so all of a sudden, the dynamics of you feeling like you're moving towards something is really empowering for you to help build up your confidence so that you feel like you're worthy, deserving, capable, and hence the ability to think about your why becomes even more amplified.
So this, when Nathan and I did it, I had done it personally for myself as
Yes.
at like an individual level. And then I kind of like lots of cool things, like here's this cool idea, Nathan, let's do this thing together. So we sat down on a Sunday afternoon, cheese platter and wine, and like
sitting in the park.
Dreaming really big.
Love it.
And it was really cool to see what came up for us and how many of the things were both like individual personal goals. And it was like, yeah, babe, that's on you. You go and you achieve that.
Yes,
Like,
right.
no interest. But then there were others that it was like, how cool is that we're going to be able to, we're going to work towards that together.
Yeah. You know, I don't. Sorry, Nathan. You go.
Using your formula as well. It was so simple to step through each of the questions and pull out.
The travel ones came real easy to
us.
Long list.
For me too, and that's okay. You know, of the 25 questions, and we should say to your listeners that if they want to go to my website, keithabraham.com/resources, the questions are there, so people can download it. You might want to put a link in the show notes, and just let you know. And they don't have to sign up for anything. Just download it,
freebie.
Do the activity. It's free, very expensive. It's just free. And,
just your time, right?
Yes, right. And you can do that. See, here's, you know, I love what you're doing with this podcast, because I don't say this enough, but here's what I honestly believe with all of my heart. The reason why couples don't stay together is because they've got nothing in common. And the goal is the easiest thing to find commonality around. And they don't have to be the same goals. They just need to know that you've got this goal and I've got this goal. And together we start to weave our life around some of the achievements, you know. I say this is that, you know, people who set goals together stay together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really, really vital to do that.
Yeah. So what tips do you have for couples who are navigating goal setting together for the first time?
Yeah, look, the first piece of the puzzle is, firstly, be kind to yourself. You know, sometimes you're going to pursue a goal and not get it. You're not going to hit it. And the worst thing you can do is beat up on yourself. Oh, we should have done that and we could have done that. No. You know, understand this is that when you don't hit a goal, there is a learning message in that. You know, I've learned a lot from the goals that I didn't get, even more so than the ones I did get. And so you've got to be grateful. I just think one of the things that I've been saying to people for a long time now is that it's so easy to be grateful when everything is great, but when it's, you know, like, oh, I'm, you know, too blessed to be stressed, you know, like, I'm everything's, you know, so, you know, great in my life. No. You know, we have to be grateful for the things that are challenging. You know, the challenge I face today is the character I need tomorrow. And so the best piece of advice is that, you know, when you're working together as couples, having some common goals together, and understand, firstly, be kind to yourself. The second thing is have this conversation around where we're going, what we're doing. You know, it's great to write down a goal, but if you don't continue the conversation, if you're not building a connection to the goal, then all of a sudden you lose focus. And it's really important that you're focusing on what counts.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you think that goal setting process, like, you know, they could be really big things like, oh, we're going to go and live in Paris for 3 months at some stage in our life, or it could be, you know, smaller things like, oh, we're going to save a certain amount of money, which is sometimes not a small thing.
No, sometimes more challenging.
No, true.
But I mean, how do you think that process of goal setting can help couples stay in that beautiful dating sort of state?
Well, because you've got something that you're both working on is really important. You know, it's like, you know, it's us against the rest of the world. I think couples, you know, I see this a lot, is when they feel like, oh, they're off doing that and they're off doing that, and there's just no commonality. And it's about coming back to, okay, what are you trying to do? How do, it is about collaboration as well, not just about, love and romance. There's this collaboration of how best can I help you work towards what you're achieving. And everybody wants to know that somebody's got their back, and that should be your partner. The amount of times, like I've been doing this for 24 years, where, we've got, my wife and I, we've gone through a lot. We've gone through, 9/11, we've gone through, Y2K, we've gone through SARS, we've gone through a couple of Gulf wars. We've had a GFC, now we're talking about coronavirus. So when you feel like you got the weight of the world on your shoulders and you don't have someone that says, you know what, this too shall pass. And encouraging that person is, and the great part about it is often with couples is if one person is not up, the other person will be. And it's about transferring that confidence and compassion to them and saying, hey, listen, I got you.
And those kind of like rallying sort of chats are so easy or much easier to do when you are clear on what it is you're trying to achieve. It's like, come on, get back on the ground because we're trying to X, Y, Z. Like,
the goal will always be bigger than the problem. So we've got this situation, but what's the old story? You either find an excuse or you find a reason. You can't have both. And so if the reason is big enough, if the why is big enough, the goal is big enough, the excuse or the challenge or the roadblock, becomes, is it a roadblock or a stepping stone?
Yeah.
And
so something
important.
Yeah. So something we're really passionate about is how couples can become both a couple and a team. So what do you believe is the key to achieving goals as a team?
Oh, wow. We come back to, the word communication, but I want to give you a different slant on it. Okay. Everybody talks about communication. Oh, we need to communicate more. If we only communicated more around here, this business would be so much better. I mean, and yet now we've got more communication tools than ever before. So it's not about communication. It's about connection. And so you've got to stay connected, which means you've got to continue to have meaningful conversations. And the only way you can have meaningful conversations is to have something that you're aiming towards that's meaningful to you. And that becomes a goal. Yeah. The reason why, couples lose it, lose the connection is because they're talking about stuff that doesn't energize, enthuse, and engage them. They're talking about the weather, or talking about politics, or talking about Johnny and Mary's school, and
that logistics level,
operational. It's all operational stuff. We're not having something we're looking forward to, and that's why it's really important to have that goal. And some people might be listening to, oh, gee, that's all right for you to say. No, look, I tell you, when I've felt any distance with my wife, it's because we've stopped talking about where we're going, what we're doing, how we're doing it. And, we've got a phenomenal relationship, but it's a phenomenal relationship because we've been absolutely deliberate about working on it. And I want people to make the distinction, oh, Keith's just playing with words here, communication and connection. No. Put it this way. Here's the difference. If you get 100 emails from somebody and you don't have a connection with them, you'll answer none of them. If you got a connection with them and they send you 100 emails, you'll answer every one of them. Yeah. And so it's that distinction about, creating a connection rather than just communicate. I told you. I told you about this, or I told you about that. No, you can tell me 100 things, but if I'm not ready to hear it, or if we don't have a connection with you, it's over the top of your head.
I think that's really, really key. And that can be such a mismatch too. Someone feels like they are connecting and it's just going up and over.
And look, and I know you guys know this, but understanding, there's two things you got to understand about your partner. Like Christine and I are yin and yang. Like I am, I am strategic. I am, business orientated. I am, you, you know, the way I think about, where we're going and planning things out. Christine, it's hard, so you've got to understand people's love languages as well, and two things, love languages and personalities. If you understand that, all of a sudden you start to get a greater appreciation of the other person that's in the relationship with you.
Yeah, and how best to communicate with them, and how they give and receive love and communication as well.
Yeah, and it's not a competition.
No.
It's this. If they do that, I'll do this. No. Just soften your heart.
Yeah,
and put yourself in the other person's shoes.
It can be really complementary, those skill sets. And if you can work out how best to leverage each other's strengths where the other one has weakness, and you can back each other up. Like, if you can work that out for all of the different areas, amazing things can happen.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But this is the understanding. We often don't spend enough time getting to know that person and what their strengths are, and what they're vulnerable, where they're vulnerable, and just understanding, okay, where are we so aligned? Where are we different? And how do we capitalize on that? And it's, Christine and I against the rest of the world. And when it comes to the bit of a challenge that we have now is, okay, we sit down and okay, what do we need to do? How are we going to do it? What's the strategy moving forward? Having those open conversations and talking about the fears and the challenges and the what ifs and the maybes, and then what's the plan and how do we move it forward?
Yeah.
I want to circle back to something that you said. There was you touched on like deliberate connection, or being deliberate or intentional about the relationship and not letting it sort of slip by. And then you just touched there on fears. Obviously, going through that goal setting or planning or big picture kind of stuff can be a little bit daunting, because you do create an opportunity where it's like, oh my gosh, now I've said it out loud. And that is something that I've acknowledged that I want to achieve or do or conquer. Now I've got this fear of failure. What have you got any advice around mitigating that, or even just conquering it before you even sit down to write 100 things?
Yeah, look, once again, there are 100 things that would be great to do. There's still things on my original list from 6 years ago when I first wrote mine that I still haven't done. I ticked one off last year.
Plenty of time.
And heaps of time. I mean, but I've, at the moment I've still got a list of 100. So there's things that were, over. I'm on my 8th list, so I've sort of ticked off a whole stack of stuff. Yeah, that's right. And so I think, how do you mitigate that feeling overwhelmed? Is you just have to have daily rituals in place. For the big things you want to achieve, it's about what do you do every day or every other day to be able to work you towards what you want and move you away from what you don't want. And so it's so critical for people to just understand it's a process to create progress. And so
progress.
Yeah, and so one of the things that the greatest level of frustration most people have is when they don't feel like they're making progress. And so if you feel like you're not making progress, then you just have to say, what is it that I can do to edge myself ever so slowly, ever so much more towards what I do want. Now, the challenge with most people is they don't know what they want. So hence, they're working really hard, and it's this, they're going around and around and around in circles, and they go, this is Groundhog Day and nothing's changing. And if we're not enlightened enough, we are looking to the closest person to blame.
And that's not necessarily always ourselves, is it?
No, 100%. So this is the other piece of the puzzle, and you probably got this as the question, but you know, you got to both be developing yourself. You know, Christine does things that develops hers. I do things that develop myself. We do things together that developed ourselves. I mean, last year, one of the things that we did together, which was, you know, a great investment of time and just a super fun experience, was Christine, myself, and my two girls who are 19 and 21. We went to a week-long retreat together with Dr. Joe Dispenza, meditation retreat. And it was sensational, you know, like it was just, firstly, it was great to see, you know, and both of my girls are, you know, they're into personal development, they're listening to podcasts and, you know, they do all sorts of weird and wacky things, you know, but for us to do it as a family, wow, that was just it was just such really cool, because we debriefed that every night and we talked about it, and people go, well, you know, and I'm learning from them, you know, which is really, really cool.
That's
But
so
that,
cool,
but
like a
couples
whole
need to
garden
be developing themselves together. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I've heard you say a good plan started today is better than a perfect plan started tomorrow. So
Yeah.
if couples want to get started on a plan, what do you recommend as a great first step?
Well, if we've got the time, I walk through a 9-part goal driver formula, which is a really great process that helps people become emotionally, mentally, and physically connected to their goal. And it's enlightening, because when you go through the process, at the end of it, you come out of it and you feel very committed, compelled, and connected to that goal. And it's great for couples to do it together. Now, I've done this with couples. I've done this with kids. I've done it with people who own their own business. I've done it with senior executives. We've done it all over the world. I've done it with a board of directors of a $1 billion turnover. Same process. I was in Port Douglas yesterday, presenting this to people who run their own insurance brokerage. And so that would be where I would start. I would do a couple of things. The first thing I'd do is I'd get really clear on getting a list of 100 individually done, and then sharing that and seeing what commonalities. We've done this in some public workshops. I run one public workshop a year, and you know, couples come along to that and they go, you know, geez, I've been married to you for 20 years. I never knew you wanted to do that. So that's powerful. The other thing which I haven't spoken about, and you wouldn't have experienced, Sammy, with me before, is what I've been encouraging people this year to do is 20 goals for 2020. And this came out of a conversation I had with a client of mine who's been a client of mine for probably about 19 years. It's one particularly young lady. Well, she was young when we first connected, and I've followed her through her career, and I've followed her from company to company to company. And I rang her just to check in on her and say good day. And I said, how's things going? She said, oh, not great. And I said, what's going on? And she said, oh, my husband's just been diagnosed again with a brain tumor. And they're two young couple, madly in love, young kids, and avid goal setters. And she said, look, you know, I'm not sure if he'll see his next birthday. And he said, but we have, really tough. And she said, but we have to have something to look forward to. And we had a bit of a conversation. We'd both come up with this idea called 20 goals for 2020. And I said, it just has to be little things to feel like you're making progress towards something.
Yeah.
And so something, anything, and to make that journey, you know, memorable for all the right reasons when it's pretty tough.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I'd recommend, and once again, your listeners can jump to my website, and this is on the website, is a little sheet which has got, in essence, some quick little questions that people can fill in an A3 sheet and actually get their 20 goals for 2020, which would be a really cool thing for couples and families to do. So that's the second thing. And not to put a dampener on, but I just want to the value of just,
life.
Yeah, well, the value of, you know, you think how quickly a year goes by, and
we're
you know,
20% through 2020 already.
We are.
there you go. And
More
so,
than.
you know, it's really important. The third thing I'd do is I'd say to people, get really clear on what's one key goal in four major areas. Personal. What do you want to achieve personally in the next 12 months? What do you want to achieve professionally in the next 12 months? What's one thing you want to achieve physically? And what's one thing you want to achieve profitably? So one's got to do with, you know, yourself personally, whether it be your own personal development or something you want to tick off the list. Professionally, what do you want to achieve in your business or in your career or in your studies or whatever it could be? Personal also has to do with family. Physical, anything to do with health, fitness and strength, strength of mind, strength of character, strength of soul, strength of spirit. And the final is profitable, which has anything to do with money. So things you want to purchase, things you want to save for, things you want to pay off, you know, things you want to financially get yourself organized around. Really important to do that. And so I'd get people to get one key goal in each of those areas and almost, you know, do it, you know, individually and then do one as a couple.
Yeah, that's a great place to start.
Yeah, because you know, what you're doing is from 100, 20, from 24,
and then you know what to work on first.
Yeah, and then what I do is I just, you know, go through and you know, get them to just, you know, what's the number one goal they want to achieve? What's the, you know, what's the goal driver? The driving emotion, you know, walk them through that 9-part goal driver formula. And that just gets people really clear on what it is, you know, that you could do for people.
Very, very cool. Thank you so much for sharing, Keith. If people are loving what they're hearing, what is the very best way for them to connect with you?
Oh, wow. So on my website, I do a weekly blog. I've been doing it for probably, I'm going to say it's probably almost close to 10 years now that I do something that's inspirational, that's insightful, that's got some ideas on how people can, you know, live a life that they really want to live. And so if they want to connect that way, they can. If they want to connect with me on LinkedIn, it's Keith Abraham CSP. Keith Abraham CSP on Facebook, on Instagram, and they're most welcome to do that. And YouTube as well. Or if they want to, if they've got a question or a comment or a thought, or they want a bit more advice, they can always reach out to me, keith@keithabraham.com.au, and happy to always have a chat with them.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and resources and knowledge. As a way of saying thank you, we, as you know, at Fuel Collective, we believe in being the change, and part of that is being the change for ourselves at an individual level in our own lives, but also being the change for the world. So we want to say thank you, and we're going to provide 9 days of business training to women in need in Malawi. It'll impart some training to help them establish their own business and improve their financial literacy to record transactions and manage their stock. So it can enable the support of their family and then obviously their community and livelihood as well. So thank you so much for making that happen.
Oh, look, that's my pleasure, and what a worthy cause. And I love what you're doing, because most people don't talk about this. You know, it's all, you know, gun ho, and we don't look behind the curtain enough to say let's have a real conversation about some real challenges that couples face, and you know, and really get people focused on, hey, listen, you know, it's not us against each other, it's us against the rest of the world.
We're a team.
We are a team.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
Keith.
thank you so much, Keith.
Delight. Thanks very much for the opportunity. If I can do anything else for you, let me know.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Au revoir. Cheers.
Thanks heaps for joining us. If you love what we're doing here and want more, subscribe to the Date Forever podcast to make sure you never miss an ep. Come and hang out with us and other awesome couples who are fueling up their relationships in the Thriving Couples Collective Facebook group, or check us out at fuelcollective.com.au. Until next time, keep on dating. Because better relationships equal a better world.